I'm artist Jenny Floravita and welcome back to my art channel. Today I'll be painting on location in Waikiki. I'll be painting a coconut palm with a simple yet expressive background, and it will be in watercolor. This video is for anyone who enjoys watching an artist paint, and hopefully it's a relaxing experience. You can also gain some insight into many of the same techniques that I use when I'm creating my larger works. Waikiki is on the beautiful Hawaiian island of Oahu. In this video, I'll be showing gesture drawing in pencil and underpainting in watercolor, how I build coconut and palm fronds with layers, putting in a simple yet expressive background, and most of all being brave with color, knowing that this painting is just a sketch. All of this was done with just 2 brushes. Here I'm drawing in a simple gesture sketch on arches in its 300-pound cold press. I'm using a mechanical pencil because I want the lines to be crisp and not smudgy, and mechanical pencils tend to have harder leads. As I add water, the pencil mark will just stay there versus blending or smudging into the background. All of the lines are good. If you don't like a certain line, don't worry about erasing it. For the tall trunk of the palm, I'm mixing in some brown hues, but you'll see here that I'm also putting in sunset colors like golds, purples, and sometimes warm pinks. I'm using a soft, round brush for this part. Honestly, most of my brushes are so worn I couldn't tell you much more about them, but as I buy new brushes, I'll be sure to mention the size and the brand in future videos because I know artists like to know that information. This nice expressive color wash will be a great base color. I like that the colors blend in and out. It's not flat, and this suits my style of painting because I like to layer. I'm going to begin the interior of the palm with gesture, much like drawing with a pencil doing the gesture sketch. I'm going to begin the gesture sketch in watercolor, and I'm going to do an expressive mix of color blends. These will both serve as the background hues for the palm fronds and the coconuts and the details, and in some cases it's going to be the final part of the painting. So I'll build on top of this gesture sketch. I'll admit that on this day we were both a bit under. My mother was recovering from a cold she caught on the plane, and she's operating the camera. Otherwise, we would have captured more color mixing on my palette because I feel like there's value in that, and you're going to see some of that a little bit later on in the video. But I try to keep it simple when I'm painting, especially outside. I'm using a smaller brush for this section, and most of the painting is going to be done with this brush. It will allow me to put down both the base colors. It will allow me to blend those colors and make the palm fronds, because these areas here are very selective. And notice how I can get a really fine tip if I basically use the brush and pull up and keep it very light and keep it on its point. And then you can also get very thick lines if you press down on the brush. And this brush loads really nicely. It will hold a lot of pigment. I really like that. It's a nice little size for a brush, and it's not so small that you have to reload it often. You can see that my palette is pretty simple. I enjoy pooling colors that I mix in the palette onto the paper for a lot of in-between hues and grays. And I'm spending about 5 to 7 minutes on this underpainting process. I'm showing you in real time, and it's not sped up at all. What you're seeing here is how I do detail work and how I create shadows on the palm, the trunk of the palms. So I'm going to be very selective, and I'm going to go be careful with how dark I go, because you don't want to lose those really nice highlights. I'm also taking some violet hues, and I'll be building shadows into the coconuts and the fronds on the interior of the palm. And like I said, I'm going to try to be as selective as possible here, and I'm going to try to use the versatility of this brush to make sure that I get some nice differences in the brush strokes for the palm frond, so that just to create some depth. So I'm being very thoughtful and selective with my brush strokes. And it's helpful if the painting's mostly dry in this phase as well, because if it's mostly dry, you'll be able to get like a thicker, crisper line like I'm getting here. If it's not dry, and sometimes you can use this to your advantage, if it's not dry, then you're just going to get a little bit of blending happening, and sometimes that's exactly what you want. So just knowing where you're at with your painting is helpful. And because I'm not stretching or taping paper down, using the thicker 300-pound paper has been the right choice, and it's not buckling at all. The basic list of paints that I've used so far is yellow ochre, a violet, a brown umber, a sap green, and a Payne's gray, and I'm going to incorporate a cobalt blue soon for the sky colors. And these have all been Winsor Newton Artist Series paints. The background is done quickly. I'm going to paint over the palm in places, so the trick is to not soak the paper, and in some areas I'm going to bring in water that's thinner with pigment to express clouds. The top of the painting will have deeper blue hues, and I'll drop more saturated color into the top left corner for a more dramatic effect. Violet hues will be introduced towards the horizon area, and then this color will be pumped up on the left side with more cobalt hue, blue hues on the bottom. I could have developed the left side into more of a landmass, but I decided to leave it with a misty feeling. And then the bottom has brushstrokes that suggest an ocean. I feel like the texture of the paper can really add character to the painting, and wherever you can make a painting original, that's definitely helpful. I have 3 final tips if you plan to paint on location in watercolor. 1 is to keep your first subjects simple. 2, remember that the true value is in capturing colors that your camera might not capture, so that this could serve as a study for perhaps something, a component or section of a larger painting that you do in the studio, versus trying to create a masterpiece outside in 30 minutes. And 3, the thicker paper like 300-pound cold press is good because it won't buckle and you don't need to tape it down or staple it. And especially if you're painting in a humid environment, the thicker paper is going to be a little bit more friendly. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe and share with a friend. You can see my original oil and watercolor paintings and my hand-painted glass chandeliers on my main website, floravitalights.com. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to see me paint next.